and welcome back to the channel. So, little side note and behind the scene thing, I record a lot of videos, anywhere between 3 to 10 a week. Unfortunately, due to me forgetting to turn off notifications on my phone, or just not liking how I worded the video, or just not having interest in what I talked about after re-listening to the video to determine whether or not I need to edit it or anything else like that, a lot of them get deleted. So, there's a lot more content I make, just no one ever sees it, and it gets deleted. So yeah. The video for today is, lighthouses. This is going to be the theme of the pictures in the background. All from World of Warcraft, because I like lighthouses, and I like the World of Warcraft lighthouses the most out of any game I've been able to play in. There's only one lighthouse that can match, in my opinion, to the Westfall lighthouse, and that is the one where you can summon the Mothman in Fallout 76. But even then, it's less of a lighthouse and more just of a tower. It's a battle tower at that point, because it's not really that good, in my opinion. But moving on from that, what's the topic of the video? Well, the lighthouse has a secondary meaning, and that's for y'all to figure out. So, onward and upward we go. So, let's start with a few things. There's a big storm heading towards Florida right now. Myron, I think it's called. And it's due to hit about 2 weeks after Helen hit. Now, the effects of Helen is still being felt very bad in North Carolina and a few other states here and there. Parts of Georgia still are without power. And Georgia didn't get hit really at all. We just had heavy winds and stuff. But all the heavy winds got a few tornadoes in some areas, and entire cities are without power because all their power poles got snapped in half. The city of Hazelhurst is an example of this. But with the second hurricane coming up behind that, with a chance of it to swing left and come through Georgia again, or swing way left and slam itself into one of the other southern states along the Gulf, well, we'll see what happens. But moving on. So, how do you break a people? You take away everything they have and make them suffer. That's how you break a people. So back in the Western migration of the United States, the land claims and whatnot that the United States did well over 100 years ago, in which you could go out, stake a claim, and that would be your land, and the government would pay you to have that land and maintain it, do something with it. There were people on that land beforehand, the natives of America, Native Americans. A lot of their land was taken from them, a lot of it. Some of it was bought or traded for. But at a certain point, around the time the gold rush started, the government stopped buying land or trading land or anything else with the remaining native population. Instead, we hired people who were experts of making them move. And how we made them move was poison the crops, salt the earth, kill off any and every bit of wildlife in the area that they were camped at, and constantly force them to go further and further west. And that's how we secured a lot more of the western side of the United States, was through these means. Now, when one person, when someone wants someone else to move, you get them to move various ways. You offer to buy it from you. Like, let's say you have a nice farm in the a nice farm in the middle of a vast wilderness. You made a little farm in the middle of the woods. Some comes by and says, I want to buy your farm." You said no. Okay, no problem. They'll buy up all the area around you. So now you only have your farm. All everything else has been bought out and demolished. An example of this is that some of you might actually make a good correlation with is the movie Up. All the area around the old man's house has been bought out and is being constructed around. And then you have his house in the middle. And they want to buy his house. Now, imagine you are a town. And it turns out something's very valuable below your town. And people offer to, y'all to buy basically buy your town out from beneath you, and they'll give you money for it. The town votes no, so leaves it at that. Well, all of a sudden, all this other stuff starts happening, and now your entire town is destroyed and or underwater, and you're suddenly having no one come help you. No one's able to come help you. Help that is supposed to be coming to you is being stopped. It's weird. But let's talk about something else. There was a fire in Hawaii. A lot of people died. A lot of people went missing, and it's a sad state of affairs. What happened in Maui? Now, mind you, most of the information I'm going to be talking about in this video is second-hand, third-hand, fourth-hand, 12th-hand removed from the actual source, because a lot of the stuff, trying to track down the second-hand or even the first-hand source of all this information is very hard. Between videos constantly getting taken down and no one has proof these videos even exist anymore, or if they did exist, small clips of them, never fully, and any information involved in this stuff keeps getting wiped out constantly. And then with the way everything works, between social media, web pages, and all this stuff, the only way we have an accurate account for what happens and any information in general is if we save it ourselves and are able to keep a hold of it and keep uploading it, or keep giving it to people. But let's move forward. Maui, the fire of Maui fire. There were reports that barriers were erected before the fire started. And as people tried to leave, they were told, don't cross the barrier. They were kept inside the barrier area. There were a lot of reports of this that came out of Maui around the time, shortly after the fire got put out. Then you have certain things that didn't burn in Maui. You have entire buildings completely burnt to the ground, but you have some buildings that are perfectly fine. You have these plastic umbrellas, which are perfectly fine. You have random buckets and trash cans that are perfectly fine, while everything that was pretty much on top of them burnt to the ground, burnt to ash. Then you have several hundred children. I think it was either several hundred or close to 2,000 children, just flat out missing. The schools for that area were closed that day, but there are still children at school for some reason. So you have children who are at school, even though the school is supposed to be closed. Children were there, but the schools weren't scheduled to close. They were just announced to be closed. A lot of weird things went on there. And you have all the people coming to buy up land. Yeah, all that land's bought up now, by the way. The people who own that land don't own that land anymore. It's all gone. It's bought up and it's being developed, or at least in the preparation of being developed. Once again, most of these accounts of all the individual things that happened are all beyond secondhand accounts. Hard to track down information. So let's jump ahead to Florida last year. Shortly after the Malibu fires, the Maui fires, you had Florida having most of its gas, a lot of its gas stations, the non-diesel being filled with diesel, thereby contaminating gas and contaminating gas tanks. So there was a ticking time bomb of all these cars just simply not going to work during an evacuation. Because all this happened the day before the evacuation kicked off. This year, though, after Helen happened, a lot of people were stranded in North Carolina because a dam broke in the areas that are up high where you evacuate to during bad storms. If you're a flood, they flooded. That's bad. You can't evacuate the high ground because it's underwater, and you can't evacuate the low ground because it's way under water. But the coordination to get help out to North Carolina has been not so good. So let's talk more about that. I ran across a guy who runs his own line company. He's a contractor who has equipment to work on power lines, whatnot. I don't know exactly what he does, but he basically told me that he works on lines. That he's been driving around Georgia nonstop since the storm happened, helping get lines back up. One of his buddies who went to North Carolina couldn't get anywhere near anything up there. So once again, this is a second-hand account. I can't talk to the guy who went up there. I can talk to the guy who knows the guy who went up there. So with everything that's going on with North Carolina, you have actual video that you can find on TikTok before they're all taken down again, or get taken down, of unmarked black helicopters flying extremely low to the ground. Now, they're not saying anything. No one's trying to communicate to people below with megaphones or speaker system or anything else. They're just flying extremely low, hovering, and then after a lot of the tents and everything else gets blown away and knocked around, they take off again. There are several videos of them at different locations doing this around North Carolina. That's kind of weird, right? You can't say they're trying to land because where they're hovering above, there's nothing below for them to land. There's no clear space. They're not rappelling down. They're not opening the doors. They're just hovering and taking off. That is not friendly behavior. That is behavior of someone who just wants to cause chaos and knock everything over and basically disrupt whatever you're doing. Which they did. They disrupted it pretty well. Now, the early reports, right after the flooding happened, the dam broke and all the flooding happened, and people were trying to get up there to help them. Early reports, which once again, not even second hand, more like third, fourth, and 12th hand, that's how far removed some of these reports are from an actual source that we can talk to, we're reporting that trucks going out trying to get to Asheville and other areas affected, like Chimney Rock and whatnot, we're getting their tires slashed. Supplies being taken by FEMA at checkpoints. Some trucks being turned around. still loaded down with supplies. And then you have some people who on these areas trying to leave their areas they evacuated to or went to after the storm, all the stuff happened, to basically a support camp. Some of them who managed to keep their phones, get them powered up, the reports from these people say that they can't leave. They're not being allowed to leave. Which, yeah, once again, the only thing I can confirm, you can go watch yourself right now, is the black helicopter stuff, with everything being knocked around. Because it doesn't happen just once, it happens multiple times at different places around North Carolina. All the stuff about the supplies and whatnot, you can only go by either truckers who claim they went there and what happened to them, people who went there to try to help and reporting what they had happened, and then you have the people who are reporting what happened. Once again, it's hard to tell what's true and what's not in the age we live in, so we can only kind of go off what is a recurring theme, and people actually showing evidence of what's going on. You have the guy who was trying to fly a helicopter, he has his own private helicopter flying supplies to people, being threatened by the fire department in his area to stop or be arrested. I can understand why they don't want to. I can understand why they don't want a private citizen flying this helicopter around, because it's unknown where he's going. They don't know no on the ground working rescue stuff knows where he's going, what he's doing, or anything else. All they see is a helicopter flying around, and they don't want to have to deal with a helicopter going down and have to divert resources to that. That is understandable. But that's not what was said. You have other cases in which they're still waiting for government assistance. And people coming to help. You have FEMA reporting they don't have money to help people, but FEMA has the money to do blockades, apparently. Now let's drop back down to Florida. As that hurricane Myron builds up to slam into Florida at a potential category of 3? It's supposed to be, maybe 3 or 2 when it finally hits Florida. And how yesterday, the 7th, it went from being a Cat 1 to a 5 really, really fast. And the eye is about just under 4 miles diameter, which is incredibly small in retrospect to the size of how big this storm is. That's a very small eye, so it means everything else, the rest of the storm is just pure wind power. Not good. But you have reports of people trying to leave Tampa Bay and being stuck in traffic for 6 hours. And this was as of this morning, around 8 o'clock when I checked on that. And a lot of vehicles are running out of gas and then causing more traffic jams because now they have vehicles on the highway without gas. I will say one thing. If you got onto the highway without gas or a way to refill your tank, basically if you did not top off your gas tank before you got on the highway, you have caused an issue, and you should feel bad for it. You should feel bad for what you caused. Ideally, though, you can't blame them completely because there might not be gas in the area they're coming out of. Because keep in mind, Florida was hit too. Not as bad, but Florida still some parts of Florida did get hit. Tampa isn't pretty much going to be in the dead center of the path of the hurricane. So they're trying to evacuate quickly now. Which they can't because the roads are blocked off. Because of traffic. But there's also reports, once again, 3rd, 4th, 5th handed. No actual video evidence of this that can be found, because if it is being recorded, it's being taken down, or it doesn't exist. So this is a big if of what's going on. I'm not saying this is happening. No one's saying this is happening. I have no way to prove any of this is happening. I'm just relaying what I've been listening to, and want to spread what might be an issue as a potential might be. I'm not saying it is happening. I'm not saying there's conspiracies for what's happening. I'm just simply stating this could be happening, and if this is true, this is really messed up. But, once again, there's no proof. That's all said so YouTube doesn't strike my channel down for spreading conspiracies or whatever. But they claim, people claim, well, one person through text messages to their friend claim that FEMA has set up roadblocks preventing people from evacuating. If that's the case, that's not good at all. You see, FEMA for years was known as the worst nightmare for the American public because of various situations, such as a farmer who had a bunch of land. FEMA came to him and said, "Hey, can we store some stuff on your property? We'll pay you so much money a month." Farmer said, "Sure, no problem. You can look the story up. It's true." So farmer finds FEMA coffins on his land, and you'll find the story. I just spoiled the ending, but yeah, FEMA chucked some stuff out there, left it out there on his edge of his property. Well, one day he decides to go check see what's out there, and they're coffins. There are thousands of coffins on his property. They're the pop-up coffins. Have you seen a pop-up plastic tote where you grab the edges and you pull it up and the tote kind of unpacks itself, become an actual box or something like that? Imagine that, but made for bodies. That's what these coffins are. And there were thousands of them on his property. And people asked FEMA, "Hey, why exactly are there so many coffins? Why are there so many coffins?" Now, mind you, this is after Hurricane Katrina. All this stuff was happened. Why were they preparing to have coffins for so many people? Ironically, those coffins have not been seen. Well, those coffins, I don't think, have been trucked out to North Carolina yet. So that's something. Perfect time to use those coffins, but they're not out there. I know that's not nice to say, but it's one of those things of they spent money on these things that I don't think were ever used by anyone for anything. But yes, FEMA for years has been the joke for FEMA has been, if FEMA shows up, you're all gonna die. Which in this case seems to be ringing true in a way. The meme is like so many things involving years in which Trump runs for president. The memes are becoming reality. Is that a good thing? No, not really. Memes are bad. Memes should never become reality. Overall, nature has a way. Nature's fun in so many ways. It can do so many destructive things. Then there's things that happen that should not happen. There's a few other things involving storms, which I'm going to talk about for a few more minutes. And then I'm probably going to end it. So, our government, over the last 80 years or so, about 80 years, as confirmed, they've been trying to work on manipulating the weather in some way. And how they do this most of the time is that they add metal particles into the atmosphere around potential storms they want to try to see if they can do something with. Chemicals, mixtures, dust, different kind of dust particles and whatnot. They did an experiment years and years ago, back in the late 40s, after World War II. They decided to add gold and, I think it was gold and silver dust into the atmosphere around a tropical storm. So they did that. And apparently they spent that hurricane got this tropical storm quickly elevated itself to a hurricane and picked up a lot of speed and grew drastically in size. The name of that experiment eludes me at the moment, so once again, look it up. Just look up government weather experiments, and it will pop up. It's not classified information. I can't do it because one, driving, and two, if I pop up Google on my phone, the recording immediately dies. So, unfortunately, I did not prepare for this part because there's more of me adding to the video instead of just ending the video, because why not? But there are experiments you can do to manipulate weather. If you put enough electricity in the air before a storm, you can cause the minor rainstorm to become a thunderstorm. Or you can attract a thunderstorm to your area by having a giant metal pole in the area, or put off magnetic waves. A magnetic pulse big enough in a certain area can cause thunderstorms to move away. Not physically move the clouds away, but disrupt thunderstorms, essentially. We also know that putting certain particles in the atmosphere can cause certain reactions and stimulate rainfall, stimulate snowfall, stimulate how much or how little snowfall happens. We can also cause other things to happen as well, such as hurricanes, for instance. Hurricanes need warm water and a cool breeze, a cool air pressure. The two together cause hurricanes to form, or tropical storms and then hurricanes. Increase in water temperature, like in the Gulf right now, the water temperature in the Gulf apparently is a lot hotter than it should be. That's why the hurricanes are getting so much bigger when they get into the Gulf. The ones that don't get in the Gulf usually stay smaller and just break themselves apart in Florida, and that's about it. The ones in the Gulf are the ones we have to worry about, because they're the one. Every time there's one in the Gulf or gets into the Gulf, its path goes everywhere. That's where they get the most dangerous. At least from the ones I've looked at. I did not go through and look at every possible hurricane that's ever been tracked. I just went through and looked at some of the ones that went for the Gulf and how their path went all over the place afterwards. We have to come to the conclusion that some human influence can cause storms to change drastically and either be a big threat or not a threat at all. It's all weird. We know if we put enough dust into the atmosphere up during the dead of winter, we can cause a blizzard to form, because all that dust attracts water molecules, which causes snowfall. And the more dust you put up there, you can stimulate more snowfall. That's kind of what happened with Snowmageddon all those years ago. Now, as we go forward with what's going to happen in Florida soon, and potential outcome of, now we have two states completely wrecked. North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, and now we're going to have Florida hit again. Line workers are going to be extremely busy dealing with that. Just to let you know, there are a lot of people who work on power lines, but there's not nearly as many as we think there are. There's not enough, honestly. They can only focus on certain areas every day. Some areas will take a lot longer to fix because some of them, just a few wires get broken, so they run new wires. Other ones, they have it to replace entire sections of the power grid and rewire them. I mentioned in the another video that my power grid for my house, for where I live, is weird. I live in Savannah. Savannah built. Savannah originally ran power to the houses that were built, that were already built to begin with, and then as they built more houses, they added more power. They added more lines to the power grid. Now, instead of redoing the power grid at some point in the past, they've only started doing that in the last about 10 years, actually going through and redoing all the power grid to get everything more organized. Well, because of because of their, I guess, Savannah's sheer laziness, they haven't finished the job yet. And it doesn't seem like they're going to finish it anytime soon now. Because of that, when most of the main power grid goes down, I'm still up and running because because I'm still hooked up to their old power network, the old power lines. So it takes a lot more to take my power out. Pretty much the power pole directly in my backyard has to get hit in order for me to lose power. Because when Helen came through, well, everyone in my neighborhood lost power beside my two neighbors on my right. My three neighbors on my right, me, and then the gas station that's across the street from, well, across the street from the neighborhood I'm at. There's a house behind me, and across from that there's a gas station. The gas station had power. The house behind me did not have power. No one else on my street had power beside the four of us, and that's all that. And then there was like one person out in the middle of the neighborhood, way off by themselves, way off and multiple streets away, that had power too. And they looking at how the power line going from looking at the power line going from the house up to the poles, they were on a completely different set of wires than everyone else was. No one else connected to the wire he was connected to. So yes, some of your towns that were built weird, like Savannah, city like Savannah, it's going to take It's going to take a lot more to take your power grid out. But it also means that if your power goes out, it could take even longer for you to get power back, which I am worried about. I downloaded the same picture twice. Did not realize that. I do like the lighthouses. That's a good shot right there. I'm gonna have to go through and do some of my own screenshots of WoW. That way I can just have them available. Most of the ones you see I've downloaded. But I'm gonna go through and probably take some better screenshots of what I want to see, and that way I can just have them on my phone, so I don't have to sit there and look for new ones all the time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This year is already insane with weather, and it might only get worse. As for me, today is Tuesday, so the Great Vault is gonna be open up here soon. I can't view mine until later on when I get home, probably after the kids go to sleep. So I have hours to sit there and see what I got for my vault. I was trying to do more delves, but I didn't finish the delves. I need to do like, I think, one or two more in order to get all three at 616. So hopefully I get a necklace or something from there. I hope I get a necklace from the delve. That will let me get to 600. That'd be great. I'm only doing delves for WoW. I haven't really done anything else. Alright, well, thank you for listening to me ramble about stuff. Most of it is, once again, not directly from a source other than the helicopters. That's the only thing from a source I can point to and say, there it is. Everything else is kind of, weird. Have a good one. Goodbye.